Hey guys, it's Patreon Thursday. Sorry this is late. The Kathy Young interview editing took longer than usual. I'm struggling with a bunch of technical issues related to the Windows update recently. I will talk more about that on Feedback Friday because it's driving me nuts, and I think everybody should know kind of what's going on, that it's not just technical inaptitude or laziness. It's actually reset a lot of my settings and not for the better, and I've been discovering it the hard way. What do I have for you guys Patreon specific? Well, you may notice that I am now doing a podcast with Rich from Review Tech USA. That's going to be cool. I've never done a gaming podcast with somebody else, so looking forward to that. I wanted to let you guys know about this because there is a separate Patreon setup for that. What basically happens is we're just gonna split that. The reason we're doing this, and it's strictly Patreon supported, it's it's gonna be distributed through probably SoundCloud, definitely directly through the Patreon page, and I'm letting you guys know this because it's financial, it's money, it's a revenue stream, and anything that involves money, I would rather you guys hear it from me first, so it is fully transparent, fully disclosed, there is no confusion. And on that subject, I want to talk to you about the upcoming Kickstarter. It is going to launch this month for sure. Yay, the page is half built. I still have to shoot the video for it. I'm finishing the script. I was going to launch the beginning of April, but then I realized Passover starts the night of the 10th, and I do not want to be dealing with a Kickstarter during Passover because Passover makes me feel yucky. It is called the bread of affliction for a reason. So a few days after Passover Easter, because there is an overlap, I will launch the Kickstarter for Lady Bits. And I have been doing a lot of preliminary stuff, a lot of background research, shaping the series more, and I am struggling right now. Struggling is the wrong word. Playing with how much guest content to include. There are definitely a lot of interviews being done on background. The developer stuff has certainly been the most frustrating. The minute somebody gets a job, they'll talk to you happily when they're between jobs, but the minute someone gets a job, it's like, no, I can't talk to you. I have to worry about the company, which I totally understand is totally fair for them, but real state of the industry, right? So there's probably going to be a lot more off the record stuff, like background, deep background stuff talked about. And that's okay, because the stuff I have been getting has been really interesting, and I'm glad I did this before I started writing the show. You'll see next week's dialogue options is it was actually an interview I did over the phone and recorded it. Some people are still old school, but it's with an HR expert. He's worked with big companies like Southwest Airlines and things like that. His name's Rex Connor, and he had some very interesting things to say about interviewing, recruiting, and employee retention that I think you guys are just gonna love. It's a lot of insight into, at least I think, and this is going to be very useful for the purpose of Lady Bits, that I'm starting to work with this theory, and this is kind of under wraps other than you guys for a bit, that a lot of these issues about gender and, I hate even using the word anymore because people get so upset about the name, but the wage gap, the compensation gap, the pay gap, whatever you want to call it, they actually seem to be symptoms of other management issues. I had no proof of this until I talked to this HR guy, and he's given me a lot of interesting preliminary data to actually support my belief that these statistics, these imbalances tend to be just symptoms, that just addressing the idea, oh, we should look at women's salaries and top them up, isn't going to solve the problem. And I say isn't going to solve the problem because if there are inequitable business practices, then okay, we may solve the problem for women, but some other group is going to suffer an inequity, and this doesn't solve any problem. It's not fine just because it's not affecting women anymore. And so these holistic approach sounds so cheesy, but that is like actually solving problems instead of pushing the problems around are very important to me in this series. So this has made the third and fourth episodes of the first 6 much more interesting. Now, the other thing that has become a unique challenge is one of the things I want to do as an incentive at a specific tier. It's quite a ways up, is t-shirts. And just why? Because I realized I like t-shirts. The other thing about t-shirts is they're easy to ship. Other Kickstarters have done silicone wristbands for the same reason, but some of the Kickstarters I've backed and got these silicone wristbands, I don't wear them. T-shirts, you know, you're mucking around, you're doing something messy, you just need clothing around the house, you put on the free t-shirt you got at some conference or something like that. And so I think t-shirts are still viable. You can get them made for around $8 to $12 a pop if there's enough of them. The big problem is shipping. Canadian shipping is so expensive that I will either have to eat in around $10 to backers at a particular tier, or I will have to charge backers $10 to have a blinking t-shirt shipped out in a bubble mailer. And I base this on the average shipping cost. I just shipped a video game to my friend in Vermont for her birthday, and it cost me $18 in shipping to Vermont, which is not that far from the Canadian border. It's just, our postal service is ridiculous. So, 2 questions for you guys. Is that too much? Should I just drop the idea of t-shirts completely? Because that's just US shipping, right? And I'm mainly focused on US because almost half of my existing audience lives in America. The next highest group is the United Kingdom, but we're jumping from like 47% to 10% in terms of viewers in the United Kingdom. Shipping to the UK is atrocious. So I'm trying to figure this out. Canada, no big deal, but Canada comes third in the number of people who watch my content. And so I really do have to base this on American and overseas backers. So let me know if you think this is too expensive and if anybody has any solutions. Now, keep in mind economies of scale. So getting like a broker and doing all these things, that would be great if I was planning on shipping thousands of units, but we're only, I'm only predicting a few hundred t-shirts here. So, there's no point in me offering a t-shirt at like, the $25 level, because half that's going to go to the price of the shirt. And that's a mistake a lot of people who do these Kickstarter incentives do. They don't realize how much of a portion of your donation tier is going to, pay for something that has nothing to do with the project. So that's where I'm at. Also, in terms of scheduling, I'm going to be really cutting back on trips. Probably not going to go to E3 this year. It's just too expensive. And I've talked to some other YouTubers and nobody seems to think that it's worth it. And this makes me really sad as a, long time, game adjacent industry person. E3 used to be the must go to show. More and more, it seems like that is PAX. And the annoying thing about that is at least twice a year as opposed to just once a year with E3. But it seems like PAX East is a much more productive show to go to. First, because it's in Boston and not in Los Angeles, which makes it a lot cheaper. But you get access to stuff, my big, oh wow, eye-opener. The one time I went to PAX out in Seattle was that developers will talk. And they're actually, come on in, try our game. You bop in without an appointment, you get an interview, everything like that, because it's open to the public. And that's why I was really big on E3 being open to the public, but it isn't the same. It's open to the public who can pay $150 early bird, $250 regular fee. That's not the same public as the PAX shows attract. And as much as I have issues with their code of conduct and for booth exhibitors, that, you know, credit where credit's due in that regard. They're open to the public. They're providing access. Really devoted gamers can go in there at a reasonable price and, you know, get advanced hands-on with the games they love, or the, you know, the games they're going to love. They can actually discover stuff. You shouldn't require $250 and to live in Los Angeles to do that. That's just, and I mean, of course, even with Boston being somewhat cheaper, though not much, the US dollar exchange right now is brutal. It's great coming from the US into Canada, but it's really putting a damper on any travel to the US. It's mental how low our dollar is right now. So, and it doesn't seem like a good use of time with this project as it is. More and more it seems to be post-launch content that I'm doing. The Horizon Zero Dawn content did great for me, but you guys know that is an anomaly. And I'm more and more seeking out things that have obvious revenue streams, you know, obviously with the podcast with Rich, he has a much bigger audience and he doesn't currently have a Patreon system set up. So that makes sense. What I'm desperately trying to avoid is double, triple dipping on people who are paying money to support initiatives. And I don't want people having to pay all these different fees for all these different initiatives. You know, the nice thing about Patreon is it's, hey, you're supporting my content, period. Whatever I manage to do on that money, that's what you guys provide. And I'd much rather keep the system that way than, you know, spread it all over the place to try to squeeze some extra cash out of this, I'll be kind and say, evolving YouTube monetization model. And again, talk more about that on Feedback Friday. But I'll leave it there. That's just the update for you guys. I will say, though, the show is looking really good. I really like the format. I really like the idea of just being able to present, well, here's one side of this issue. Here's the other side of this issue. Here's some things I think you may have not considered. And then leave it open-ended. And this is really evolving my opinions on how to tell a story in a game, but also for gamers. You know, this breaks the rules of what you're supposed to do with so-called opinion content. And I'm enjoying the experiment. I think it's really working so far. So I'll leave it there so this doesn't stay too long, but thanks again for your support, and onward and upward. I think you guys are going to be happy with what you're going to see, and next week I'm going to take you a little bit to maybe do a little desktop presentation or something like that about how the project is going so far, because you guys are paying for the early development of it, so you guys should see what I've been up to. Okay, thanks so much.